for the webinar, what's possible in technology is built for social services, some details about Mareto. I'll be going through a bit of a demo, but also hopefully it'll give you some ideas on if you are in search for new case management software, what things to look for so we can discuss that. Before we get started, also it's being recorded, so it'll get sent out along with the slide deck as once we're finished it all. So just give folks a few more minutes here to get settled so I can see people are still trickling in. If you wanted to write in the chat where you're joining us from, and also if you already know you have specific questions that you're hoping that I get to, definitely can do that. Oh, hi, bud. From Strathmore. I'm joining you guys from Calgary. Looks like we got some folks from out west here. Quite a few of you. Oh, Sudbury. Hi, Lisa. Hi, Devin. Hi, Jennifer. Sylvan Lake. Lots of folks from Alberta. Wonderful. Hopefully it's as nice where you are as I am in Calgary here. I think it's +10 again. We've lost all our snow. It's apparently spring, but I know winter's coming back. All right. Hi, Laura. All right. So as we're getting settled in, I'm going to jump into things. Like I said, hopefully you're in the right spot for this webinar. I'm going to go through some of the typical things that I see within case management software, some of the problems that are out there. I guess before I start, I should probably introduce myself. So I'm Travis Turner. I'm one of the co-founders here at HelpSeeker. We've been at this for just over 8 years now. Obviously, one of our products that we do have is Mareto, case management software. So I'll be drawing on some of my knowledge of that. Some of the conversations I've had within communities throughout Canada. So hopefully you guys find it useful. So the problem I'm going to talk about, some of the problems that I most frequently hear that are out there. I'm going to try to talk about some practical takeaways that'll be useful in what you potentially should be looking for. I'm going to demo our product live around an instance that we've built out for housing homelessness, shelter. There's actually some outreach, so it's pretty unique, and that's one of the things we do. We combined quite unique programs into one instance, and so that data actually rolls out correctly. And then I'll make sure that we save some time for Q&A, and if I'm not able to answer your Q&A, we can also, of course, follow up and go from there. So a client walks through the door, through your door. They've been there before, but you can't find their files because it's in a different system. So I hear this conversation over and over and over again. It's that, I work at this organization and I know that Johnny's came through the door, but Johnny's actually over in this program now. And so that program, so the software itself, is actually a different piece of software. It happens all the time. Second one is they're actually accessing 3 programs. Each one has a separate intake. So even within the same piece of software, there's 3 different intakes. And now you have Johnny, and I'm going to stick with Johnny throughout this, my made-up person here. Johnny's now in your system 3 different times, but actually it's still Johnny, and he's going through 3 different programs. So we need to understand that it's actually Johnny and his user journey, and that we're not actually asking him the same questions over and over and over again. You write case notes on paper because the software takes too long. So again, heard this one hundreds of times. It's going, well, it's not convenient. I can't actually use it when I need it. At the end of the month, and I actually just heard somebody talk about the end of the month trying to pull that data together. I think she said it took her 2 days to actually get that data to a spot where it was useful, even though it was going into the one system. And a colleague in another program doesn't know the person is already being served because the system doesn't connect. So these are those common things that I continue to hear throughout, throughout my conversations in Canada. So this isn't your guys' fault. The technology, in my belief, and the reason why we've put this into market is that it should address these things. This is core, and I don't feel it's acceptable that these things are actually happening. So why? Again, some of these are my beliefs, or based on my experience, having chatted with a lot of different folks, having built within this product. Most case management software is not specifically built for that sector. So they'll take something that was healthcare, they'll take something that was maybe built for justice or CRM or this or that, and try to push it onto the particular organization. I hear it time and time again. So, we have this food bank, and I'm not trying to pick on anyone, I have no idea. I'm just making these things up. We have this food bank software, but we actually do heavy amounts of case management, but it doesn't really do case management. So I just put my notes here in this box, and it seems to be working. So rigid workflows don't actually match your programs, exactly that. The data is trapped in silos. So again, even if it's going into one system, it's actually not communicating, it's not organized, it doesn't make sense. And then the reporting, as I mentioned, for sure. Privacy is a checkbox, not a foundation. And I'll talk about these a little bit more, but it should be thought of as something that's foundational to these systems. What if the technology worked in a way that already your team already thinks? And so that's always our goal. Is myself and I worked in a school system previously, so I've worked with a lot of these different data collection tools, and I can see that they've been built to collect this data in this way, but not for me, who's the end user, who's actually trying to enter it in. And so that absolutely is always the goal. So the client tells their story 3 times. What if they actually told it once and we could actually pull that up? Notes are on paper and then they're entered later. What if it actually was built into the system and is done in a way that you could go directly into it? Or systems, one funder report. What if, again, this was already possible? So these are the types of things that we think about as we're building. Also, why we brought this to market is this stuff. Even prior to Mareto coming to the space, myself and other co-founder, Alina, who you can see is also one of the presenters, we knew that these were the issues. She had worked in the nonprofit sector in housing and homelessness forever and heard these exact same things. So, as mentioned, based out of Calgary, so this is a Canadian organization that we build along the social sector, and we're building it for impact, not necessarily profit. Co-design with community partners. We want to empower you folks. Wide range, and this is always really unique, and the more I talk to folks throughout Canada, the more diversity I hear within their organizations. And so I know that there's typically not this really, we do only this sort of program and nothing else. So maybe we do housing and homelessness, but we also actually have counseling services. We also have a food program. I'm doing an implementation right now, and there's 19 different programs. And I'm super surprised going, you're doing this, but you're doing this, you're doing this. And so that's actually super typical, is that you're going across systems, and that's normal, right? And your software should be able to wrap around versus the other way around, right? I'm going to actually do a lot more of a demo to go through a lot of these, but our big things are that is trying to make sure that our software wraps around the reality of the work that you folks do, not vice versa, is taking our software and slamming it onto you and going, okay, now you work around the software. It doesn't work that way. These are fairly standard things. So again, I'm going to show you guys more so these pieces. Turn data into decisions. This one for me is absolutely crucial, and I'm going to talk about the importance of this. And it really comes in, are you collecting the right data to begin with? And is that data organized? Again, in a meeting this morning, uh, they take the data out of the system, and then it takes them days and days to be able to actually answer the questions they're looking for. And so even if it's going into the system, is it coming out in a way that's meaningful? That's huge. There's no way you should be spending 2, 3 days trying to answer simple questions like how many people did you serve last year, last month, last quarter, right? But often that is the case. Now, making sure that you're actually collecting the right data, you want to be able to answer what outcomes have been met, how many people met these outcomes. But if you're not collecting that data to begin with, it's simply not possible, right? So, um, one of the things that we've done is the folks here at Help Seeker have taken courses on OCAP. We work with the Indigenous organizations, communities to make sure this is upheld. So that's something that's really been important to us throughout our journey as Help Seeker. So just a little note. Other big thing is often, and I'm trying to address questions that I normally get asked, and usually with out the gate, somebody says, "Well, where's your data hosted?" And our data is hosted in Canada, so that's getting to be more and more important, given all the conversations that folks are having with the U.S. I don't need to get into the politics of that, but again, Canadian hosted data, more and more we're getting those questions. End-to-end encryption, role-based access, making sure that the right people see the right information, and it's, you're not exposing data to the wrong folks. I'm going to try to show some of those features and some of those pieces within the demo. And then audit trails, so making sure that those pieces are available as needed. Again, some of the folks are working with very sensitive data and are getting called to court for different things. And so you need to be able to have these documents accessible. So I'm going to try to give you, even right now, a few practical takeaways. Think about these, think about other things. Of course, I'd love for you to think that Mareto is the software that would work for your organization. But if not, think about these things. These are the ones that I get asked most typically, the things I believe matter as somebody who builds within our system, that delivers it. So 5 things that you can think about this week is before you start going and actually looking and think about your actual workflows. So before any technology, draw how a client actually moves through the program. That's one of the leading questions I ask when I come into discovery sessions when we start implementation. I'm like, explain to me how somebody walks through the door. What does this actually look like? The movement, what questions, what does that look like? Second one is list every data point. And it sounds like a big deal, but if you know what your funders want in that starting spot, then you can do the work back and go, okay, well, can my software account for this? Can da 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 da, and making sure that you know what you need to begin with as far as your endpoints, right? Start with my funder is asking me about this. Okay, cool. Now you know that you're starting there. Frontline staff. So I know there's a huge range of folks here, from folks that are frontline workers themselves to, I'm guessing there's some funders sitting in here. Talking to frontline staff about this, they know so much. They know exactly what this looks like. They know what the friction points are. They're going to be either the champions of this, or they're going to also be the ones that are not putting the data in there. They're writing it on pieces of paper. Review where your client data actually lives, back to the piece of paper. I know probably even on this call, there's lots of us that are still writing notes down. I did it myself as a teacher. When I was in there, I'd go, well, the system's actually not allowing me to put this, but it's really important. And so it's been a while since I've been a teacher, but I was still writing notes down, right? Because the system didn't wrap around me. It didn't do that. And then consolidate your intake questions. This one's tricky. I hate to say start recording things on paper and passing the paper around because that's definitely not a good practice, especially around privacy. But that intake process and when somebody comes through the door, especially let's say within somebody who's experiencing homelessness, them telling their story over and over and over. And so for me, that would be one of the biggest starting spots is that intake and not having to relive whatever put you in that spot to begin with and telling that story, 3 times, 4 times, 5 times. Um, now, here's what I would, and these are the questions I get asked quite often, most often, as a vendor of software. And prior to being a vendor of it, these were the things that we'd work with organizations on. So where's the data stored? Who owns it? Can workflows be customized to my program so the actual way frontline workers move through the system, not they have to conform to it. What does funder reports look like? So making sure you're starting out with that. How long does implementation take? And I'll tell you a little bit about our stuff. What happens to my data if I leave? So how do you get that data out? It should be your data, not my data. I hold your data. It's your guys' data. It's actually the people's data. And then role-based access is, of course, so role-based access is basically that. So a manager in the system can see, let's say, all files, but a caseworker can only see the files that they're working with. So what does that look like? Does it, again, support your organization, or is it out of the box? Here's how it is. Is there OCAP or data sovereignty supported? So more and more of this conversation is coming up. We work with lots of Indigenous organizations, communities, and so this, again, really important to us. Red flags to watch for. Data stored outside. So these are basically the opposite of those pieces. I would caution, right? I believe it's Patriot Act. Again, if you want to start talking about data sovereignty, where your data is stored, even if it's stored here, those things, you might want to look into pieces. Okay. Are you ready for new technology? Document those workflows. I'm starting to repeat myself, but these are the big things. And I'll come into a meeting and folks will be like, they don't really know what they want, which is okay. Happy to meet with folks. So they're not quite ready to be having those conversations. And so spend some of that time actually going through those steps that I talked about. Report those needs that are already known. Is there staff buy-in? So if you have your staff that are already ready for this, they want this, it's going to be that much easier for you folks. We build stuff, it's all good, but it's actually having somebody in the organization, down to the last point there, the champion that's identified, right? So who's going to own this? Who's going to push this through? Who's going to support it? Who's going to make the system that much better? So these are things that are really important. Privacy requirements. Do you know which privacy pieces you fall under? OCAP principles. Is that something that's important to your organization? These are the things I would keep in mind. Okay. Hopefully that wasn't too fast or too long. I'm going to jump into the system. So here's Mareto. It was built out for a housing and homelessness organization. They'll be starting to use it, I think, next week. So there's no live data in here. This is just demo data. Keep in mind that all of this can be customized, right? So what is that most important thing you as the end user want to see when you log in? So this is my fake manager account. I want to actually be able to oversee what's happening in the system. So how many intakes were there? How many cases were there? How many of these things? What are those announcements that the whole staff need to have with regards to this system? So these pieces within here. So that's kind of the first thing that you're going to see. The way we build out our system is around person. So there's kind of three overarching categories. So you have a person, and a person is a person is a person, and I'll explain what I mean with that. Then you have a case, and then you have events. So case management, of course, but there's cases such as a housing case, and I'm going to show you what that looks like. And then there's different events within the system as well. So those are our typical three categories, and so we try to bring those front and center. Central intake. So this is the new, we need to check somebody in. We need to actually record this information. You can see, again, it's all laid out here, but let's actually go in here and I'll click through. So all of these pieces going back to the what data do you actually want to collect? What if it's not coming into the system, it's hard to report on it, right? You simply can't. Each one of these things can be customized to what you need. So you can see all the different ones. Let's say here. So this one's changing quite often, or specific groups will want different things put in there. This one we can absolutely customize to here. So you can see there's a whole bunch of different, and it's specific to the organization, of course. With this one here, again, part of the safety, so we need to understand safety. Is there safety concerns? How they're contacting, diversion. So again, if you're working within the housing and homelessness sector, so asking those initial questions about current status around housing. What sort of supports are needed? So again, this one's going to be pretty specific to housing and homelessness, but we build across the different sectors. So, and I'll talk about one that we're going to show you next month as well. File uploads, simply a photo, but if you have, your consent forms, maybe you have still some written assessments, or you do want to write and you want to actually house those notes within the system. Does the system wrap around the work you actually do? So that creates a person. So I'm just going to exit out of here. The next part would be absolutely around the case. So we know how a person, there needs to be one person in the system. So there's one Bob Turner. There's not going to be another Bob Turner when I actually go into, the shelter program. So you can see down the side here, we have case management, we have shelter, we have outreach. Now, if I talk to Bob, when I'm doing my outreach work, and then I see Bob who checks into the shelter, still the same Bob. He has different cases, he has different notes, but it's still the same Bob. That's actually how you get really, really good solid data quality, is when you actually have it roll up into the proper data model, right? And so it starts with that data model. So I'm going to click over into case management, and already you're going to see there's room management within here. So that's a case, but I'm also going to show you one within here where we'd go, okay, so that's a case, but the same person, let's say this person who is checked into the shelter and has a room, we can also do an open case. So we could do a counseling case for them as well. And then we can also go, okay, so this is actually part of transitional, right? So you can actually set up the different cases, but again, still the same person in the system. They can be under different programs. They can have different cases. But if they don't actually roll up into the same person, your data quality, you're not going to be able to answer those important questions that you're looking to. So we can do our bed assignment within here as part of that. There's certain case documents. Maybe for this case, we need them to fill out a specific assessment. So we can drop down into the assessment. Maybe there's a consent form where we go, okay, they need to fill out this consent form. We're going to upload it. It's signed. We go date, and then we can actually, it expires within a year. and we can have a flag so that there's a reminder in the system that pops up and says, okay, it's been a year since so-and-so has filled this out. You need to get them to update their consent. Back to the outcome tracking, if you're not actually putting that as a possibility within the system, how do you know when you come to your reporting? So what are we actually working on? We're going to work on for counseling, support cultural identity, Indigenous wellness, enhance personal safety and crisis planning. Okay, let's go confidence and self-determination, right? Okay, and then case closure. We're not going to do case closure because, again, this is now going to be an open case. So if I didn't have, let's see if I did it right. I'm supposed to fill out a whole bunch of boxes, so it might not have popped up. Oh, no, there it is. So now you can see that this one's actually in the system or this person here within. Okay. So that's case management. I'm going to jump down to shelter operations. So again, thinking about that person. So you now see the person here. They're assigned a room. So that's going to be, in this case, this is going to be their case. Their room is their case. And you can see these are the folks that are occupied. Here's the actual beds that are available. Quick reference. I go, okay, I need to know, do I actually have any space left in the shelter or in the transitional housing units? Okay, so yes, I still have some space. And then I can go in there, same thing that I just showed you, assign a case. So the case being the physical room in this instance. Some quick metrics within here, of course. So that's the room assignment piece. And then these ones are really neat, and I've broken them down into shelter operations. So you can see they're rolled up into one giant log here, and I'll just pull one up, but we can also break it down, right? I only want to see the bed checks. I only want to see the room checks, and so forth. But let's do an incident report. So here's one that we did. So here's the name of this person. The incident was that they were saying some nasty stuff to another one of the clients within there. So it happened at this time. The severity is fairly low. Violence, aggression, physical, emotional abuse, things like did we have to phone the police for it? Blah, 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 blah. And what we can do is for something like this incident, everybody in the organization or everybody in the transitional housing units, the staff, all need to know this. And so we can send out a notification, so a trigger and automation within it. So, it can be an email or it could say somewhere up here within our notification board. But again, that internal communication is always so important with working within this population for sure. So there's those pieces here. I do see some chats popping up, so I'm just going to pause. Okay. It's helpful if BC housing systems and integrate directly with HIFIS. Yeah. So integrations are always an interesting one. The conversation with HIFIS, we'll see if we get a chance to pop into that. But I have some thoughts on that one as well. Okay, yeah, just keep the comments coming. I'm going to jump into daily logs. This is often a request we get, and it's a little bit different than an announcement within that first page. So an announcement is something, like what I just said, maybe that incident is something we agree upon that everybody needs to know. But then there's things like the bed needs repaired or this or that, or I'm starting to mix things here is going, there was an incident here and you can communicate with me, who's the manager. Do the police need to be actually phoned for this one? So this can be a different level of communication, or it can be a communication log within a specific department. So we can have this for just shelters, and then the folks that are working within outreach, they don't actually see it. Gonna go back up to outreach. So often we get asked, can we, we're doing outreach work, can we record what we actually handed out? Absolutely. So we can make that, and it can come in different ways. Do we want to record how many specifically, how many snacks were there in some sort of a table like this? How many people we talk to? Absolutely. Oh, we actually do want to mention that we talk to these people within this. Here we can also set up flags where we go, okay, I spoke to so and so, there's safety concerns. We need to follow up with them tomorrow at this time at this location. So we can set up those triggers to make the work easier and wrap around the actual work you guys do. Appointments. So same thing is supporting the work that's happening out there. So I know that tomorrow I need to go back to location A to speak to Johnny because he was having a tough time. So we can actually put that in here as a calendar to accommodate that, especially because again, there's different shifts. So Travis works on Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and Alina works on Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Okay, I need to let Lena know that this is something she needs to follow up when she starts her shift, right? Reporting. So this for me is one of the coolest things we do, and actually the second one is making sure that data is collected in a meaningful way so that you can actually visualize it, so you can actually see what's happening. So quick, total logs, total call logs, active cases, occupied beds. What are those key metrics you need to know on a daily basis? Some of you only want to know that there's, 5 new clients. Okay, that's cool. We'd only have that page for those pieces. And then there's, I want details on the intake reporting, right? So how many people fit here, fit here, fit here? Oh, this is a great chart. I love it. I need to do month-end reporting for my funder or for my boss. I'm just going to download this chart and it's ready to go. And actually, I want to know what this looked like last year. So what does this look like last year versus this year? This shouldn't be a data project. We get hired to do data projects very much like this. It shouldn't be a data project. You should be able to go in there and go, how many people did I serve? And how many that. So it should be accessible, not a giant project in its own. So I'm just going to show you some examples of the different charts. Same thing. I need to know what this looks like this year versus last year. And these are all based on data fields that this organization wanted already entered into here. Cases by status, so how many are open versus closed, how long were they, how many closed cases, these things that just should be front and center and really easy to pull. So same thing with the shelter reporting, what do we want to know within there? Okay. So if it's going into the system, we can visualize it. We can make it as a reporting mechanism. This one here, this has been something new that we've been working on is the full automation of this, is taking it from within the system and being able to actually generate these reports automatically. We're getting very, very close to having this. Right now, it's coming out monthly, where there's a little bit of a lift still, but these pieces I find them really, really useful. So it's actually giving a little bit more of a context of each one of those metrics that we're finding. So bed utilization, right? And having it as a report, so you can download that report, and it's giving it a little bit more, right? So I'm not going to go through each and every one of them, but you can see there's some very useful info. For me, if I'm a person making decisions within the organization, or I'm doing planning, going, okay, well, what do these numbers actually mean? And how do I roll them up into a meaningful way? So here's, of course, just, so that was who's calling. So from here, then we have the safety concerns, right? So there's these pieces. Last but not least, and I'm going to show you kind of what we use for when we do implementation. So this possibly doesn't make full sense. But it's think about it in your organization. Are you talking to the folks that you're serving? Are they happy with the work that you're doing? And so how might you better support them? What goals do you want to work on? And so this is actually we can turn it into an external URL. So you can actually send it out to the folks that you're working with. More importantly is that data is actually coming back into the system, right? So you don't then have to go and say, okay, well, now I have, my survey monkey, I got to analyze that. I need to take that, add it to my, month end report or my annual report. It's all coming into the same system. And then you can start to, oh, that's interesting. We're serving all these people, but maybe we're not doing a great job on this. Here's how we might be able to go about it. So again, and then here's the easy export that I was talking about. So we can actually just, everybody that's in here, we can hit export, away we go with it. I think that covers it. I'm just going to go back to my slide deck. Just a couple of last slides, and then happy to answer any questions. So that's live demo. This one will for sure get asked, so I will just talk about it straight on. So here's our process. There's initial workshop where we do data collection. I want to understand what your intake looks like. I want to understand those workflows, what sort of assessments you're using. So that's the initial piece. We take that and we turn that into requirements and then actually build it out. Data migration. Data migration is always a little bit of a wild card because I don't know what your data looks like in the other system. So for me to be able to say, oh, it's going to be super easy and it's going to look great without knowing what system you're using or even what's going in or how you're going to be able to get it out is hard. But again, we do this work all the time, taking data. If you've followed any of our other webinars, that's what we do, right? Is we take these massive data sets, we clean it, we make sense out of it, and we bring insights. So, taking it out of another system, it's always possible, right? Not a huge deal, but might not be the greatest data set. Who knows? And then we take that, we go training, go live, and then go from there. So that's the process. It says it's a little 4 weeks. I got to be careful when I say this, but I think we're going to get one done at the end of the month, March here in 2 weeks. So we're speeding things up. So we're even moving faster. Now, a large implementation like I was talking about for 19 programs and 300 users, pretty diverse. That's still only taking just under 3 months. So the ability to take that complexity and make it into a useful tool is it's moving along pretty quick. We try to be as upfront around pricing as possible. So starting with some of these smaller programs, straightforward, the setup fee is 5,000, and I'm going to say even possibly even a little lower, but it depends on the complexity of that program. Same thing with the cost per license is $40. And then those bigger organizations, we absolutely can do the volume discounts. And if we start talking about multi-year contracts, we can do some discounted pricing for that. So again, we try to be transparent and going, here's what it looks like up front. Questions? So I'm gonna stop sharing my screen. I'm gonna look at the chat here. Okay, just looking up at the top here.
There's a question here, Travis. How much ability is there for our staff or software admin person to build reports or complex queries?
Yeah,
What environment/tools are used to achieve this?
yeah. So there's a bunch of different ways I can answer that. So from those graphs that you saw within the system, you would be able to create those graphs yourself. So we can give you that level of access. We can also allow you to be able to export the data and the specific data that you want, and then you can take it and you do what you want with it. So those are kind of the low hanging fruit. Now that report that I showed you, um, that one's still a little bit of an R&D project for us. We're not quite at the spot where it's a self-serve, and so what we've been doing is going, okay, what are those questions you're trying to answer? What are you trying to understand? And then we can build it out. I don't want to overpromise anything, but I foresee within the next, few months, we're going to get to a spot where you'll be able to query it yourself. We did one on knowledge graph and querying. I think it was a few months ago. But yeah, we're working on solutions for that. Uh, TBD, right? The world of technology moves so fast. So hopefully that answered that.
Got another one here. I'm curious, or sorry, that was about the recording. Yeah, we'll be sending out a recording after this. Sorry, another question here. Uh, I'm curious if there are options about anonymous reporting, either as part of outreach or drop-in services.
Repeat that, please.
I'm curious if there are options about anonymous reporting, either as part of outreach or drop-in services.
Oh yeah, 100%. So that there's a few different things there. Is one, do you just want to see the final output of going, okay, you served, 15 people and who needs to see that? So it's one, a data collection piece on how we collect that data, or two, it's a role-based access is who can see that. So let's say my frontline worker, they need to be able to see this, but my executive director needs to be able to see across the board. So yes.
Can data be transported to another system using an API, for example, this platform to another national database?
Yes. The technology is 100% possible. I'm guessing I know which database you're speaking of around HIFIS. So then yes, but it's a conversation with them and us. Happy to have that conversation. Technology wise, yes. Um, it just becomes do they want to do that? We'd happily do that and work with them. Yeah.
How customizable is the feedback survey tool?
Oh yeah, that one's full customized. Everything you saw is 100% customizable, and that's why I was showing you that one. It's one we use with our customers. But yeah, we'd build that out with you. It's going, okay, here's the things you want, and you can actually get it to a spot. We have the ability where if you wanted to be building that yourself, you could be building it yourself as well. Yeah.
What would be the business rationale to go with a paid solution like Mareto as opposed to something like HIFIS?
Yeah, you know what, and not here to bag on Hyphus by any means. I think they do great work. It's typically my understanding is pretty specific to let's say these types of programs. What we often hear is going, yes, it works for these programs, but it doesn't work for these ones, or I want to use it here, or I want these things in addition, so that the specific reporting requirements that you need to enter into HIFIS, the system absolutely does the trick. It's you have Johnny in HIFIS, but now Johnny's over in this program, so now you have him in, this spreadsheet, and I know this is 100% happening. So Johnny's in this spreadsheet over here, and oh, he's actually in another program here, and he's in this spreadsheet here, and it's all the same organization, right? And so that would be my value proposition is that yes, it does the trick. We love HIFIS. We love the work that they do, and that's great. It's specific, right, to housing homelessness. I know there's folks trying to use it in different ways, trying to make it wrap around other programs. Sounds like it's kind of mixed success because again, I end up talking to them, so I'm not sure that it's actually serving that need. But yeah.
So this leads a bit into the next question. Can we use this across different programs, so different trackers, etc.?
Yeah, this is for me the really the big piece of it, and it's why it exists, why we exist is it goes across programs. Um, You don't need 15 different pieces of software for 15 different programs. It should be able to go across. And we have quite a few implementations. That's what that's what they want. That's why they're coming specifically to us. Is because we work to understand each one of those programs, how it works, and then how that data actually rolls up into it. Whether it's we're doing shelter, but then we're also doing, food bank stuff. We're also doing this. And I know those they exist. They exist here in Calgary. They exist everywhere. Those types of things. So yeah.
Ken
Can I,
Mareto,
oh, Taj,
Oh,
sorry. I just
Alina's
couldn't,
jumping in now.
yeah, I know. I couldn't help myself. I'm just like listening and I love all these questions. I was gonna say the reason for that cross program component is because a lot of y'all are also working as part of systems or networks. So things like coordinated
Mhm.
access, right? So the ability to centralize intake between two programs and two different organizations and
Yeah.
still sequester, right, the data so that the rest of your organization doesn't necessarily see all of those details. So it's not just, some of you might be thinking, okay, how does this work internal to my org? Some of you might be thinking, how could this work external? How can we actually connect the tissue between all of us that are working on the same client? So that's why we built it
Yeah.
this way, right? So I just wanted to,
It,
same
it was
concept.
It was built with coordinated access in mind. As mentioned, we've sat in that space for a long, long time. Some of you on this call know that. I see some familiar names within there that we've been working around the methodology and the technology for coordinated access. So yeah, it allows it to do that. Absolutely. Thanks,
is
Celine.
there is there a consent management system built into Mareto?
That means a lot of different things to a lot of different people. So yes, yes. Um, because it's custom built, we built it out a whole bunch of different ways, anywhere from like there's a checkbox saying yes. There's actually a recent request that we have a certified e-signature built into it. So we're looking at bringing that as a feature within the consent form. So it's going, okay, here's the consent form. There's also folks that still are like, no, no, we need physical signatures. Or the way it works is that, we read it to them and then there's that physical signature and we can upload it. So yes, I've built them out, oh, dozens of different ways. So yeah.
Can Mareto handle document uploads, attachments, and also appointment scheduling?
Yes. So even back to the consent form there, there's still that need for physical uploads. So that's a standard feature, whether it's a consent form, whether it's a picture, whether it's a copy of a birth certificate. Well, there's a whole bunch of different pieces that file upload works. So that was one, and there was actually a blend of questions there around appointments. So yes, few different things. So one, you can book the appointments internally within the system. And a new feature that we're just building out for somebody now is an external part so that you could actually have it as, part of the intake where we go, okay, here's first name, last name, date of birth, da 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 da, and select an appointment time, and then hit submit. Then it goes into there. So yeah, yeah. I need to deeply understand the requirements for what that looks like. But yes,
Is there any ability to build informed templates internally, or is it all external uploads?
let me see. I'm just read. That's the one, the last one right there, right?
Yep.
Is there any ability to build form templates internally? Yeah, yeah. So it's understanding the data requirements. We actually have one of our clients that extensively is using this feature, and so and it's really specific to how was the classes we ran last month? Can you tell us about your service? And so each one of them is different. And I think they just pushed out to their clients through email. I think there's three or four different ones to like a few hundred different clients. Yeah, yeah. So 100%. I hope that answered it. I think that's what you're asking. If not, let me know, Michelle.
What does training and onboarding look like?
What does training look like? So there's a few different ways that we've done it. Obviously, it's virtual, but it's working with that specific organization. Typically, what we do is start with the train the trainer. So there's that head person that we've really been working closely with and making sure they have really deep knowledge of the system. And so we'll start there, make sure there's comfort there, that they're very, really well trained, and then we'll take that and then we'll train the staff. Typically, it's small group, give them access to the system, even stay online where they can ask questions, they can walk through it. Yeah, I absolutely love doing the training sessions. Given I was a teacher for quite some time, I still really love getting in there and showing people the different products. Hopefully you could see that as I was doing the demo here. Yep. And then manuals, follow-ups, of course. It's making sure that you're comfortable with the system.
And maybe talk about the customer success program too, because it's never like a one and done with the turnover that we see in
Yeah,
a lot.
yeah. Absolutely. And so we stay with the clients, we know in the nonprofit world there is typically high turnover. And so that ability to, do a follow-up training session, absolutely. Do a mini training session as the system updates, giving you more information. So it's, even once the system goes live, we keep with you and making sure that it's working for you, working for the organization. Yeah. Taj, any
That's
others?
all of them.
Cool. I see some nice comments already in there about the tool. So yeah, thank you. I'm going to just throw up the next webinar. So this is something new that we've been doing. So this one was, an attempt to around housing and homelessness. Go to the next one because we have really specific questions sometimes. So the Q&A is really important. And so it kind of giving you a demo of what this could look like. Remember, it needs to work with your organization, but this is what that organization wanted. The next one we're going to do is around child and family services. We're doing a huge implementation right now. So we'll draw on some of the pieces, some of the learnings from that. If you wanted to join us, it'll be next. I didn't actually put the date. It'll be March 12th, off the top of my head. But if you look at that QR, and we'll send it out with the record and whatnot today. If you wanted to join us for that or share that with anybody who you think would find it useful, by all means. And then I'm just going to go back to here. If you wanted a follow-up demo, you had follow-up questions, there's my personal email. Also, if you wanted to just book a follow-up meeting, if you go to mareto.ca, there's a invite within there as well. So, yeah. I see some chat stuff, making sure that I'm not missing any more. Some thank yous. Hi, Chris. You managed to make it. It's awesome. We'll definitely chat after because I know you're going to have some questions. Hopefully you found that useful. And also thank you to everybody who joined us. Hopefully it was useful and hopefully we chat again soon.